All right, today we're jumping into a really intense text that gives a radical diagnosis of our modern world and an even more radical solution. It's called The Great Rebellion by the Gnostic author Samael Aun Weor. Now, this is a challenging worldview for sure, but it promises nothing less than a total transformation of our very being. So let's get into it and explore its core ideas.
The text does not pull any punches. It opens with this incredibly stark critique, immediately setting a tone of deep dissatisfaction with the world as we know it. And this isn't just about things looking ugly. It's a fundamental judgment on our entire way of life, and it perfectly sets the stage for the problem the book is about to unpack.
So, what exactly is the diagnosis? Well, the book starts by painting a really grim picture of, well, everything. It argues that our entire world, both spiritually and physically, is in a complete nosedive, heading for a total collapse. And we're not talking about vague predictions here either. The text gets incredibly specific. It talks about the annihilation of all marine life because of ocean pollution, a depleted ozone layer, air so contaminated that people in cities will literally need oxygen masks to breathe. Oh, and the polar ice caps melting, causing a new universal flood. I mean, it is a full-on apocalyptic vision, and it's designed to make you feel a profound sense of urgency.
So, who's to blame for this coming catastrophe? Well, the book doesn't point the finger at governments or corporations or systems. It points the finger right back at us. It uses this really provocative term, the intellectual animal, to describe what humanity is in its current unevolved state. The argument is that our very nature is the root of the whole crisis. But here's the twist. The author argues that this external crisis, this world on fire, is actually just a symptom of a much deeper problem. The real issue, the book says, isn't out there, it's in here. We are all living in a kind of psychological prison that we've built for ourselves.
And the foundation of this prison is a really wild concept called the doctrine of the many. The basic idea is that you are not one single person. Nope. Instead, your psyche is like a chaotic mob, a huge collection of countless different I's or egos, and every single one of them has its own conflicting desires and agendas.
This comparison just nails it, right? We walk around with this illusion that we have a single, unified self, a consistent will. But the book argues the reality is more like a house filled with a ton of different people, all fighting for control of the TV remote. We think we're in charge, but we're actually just puppets, and whichever I is strongest in the moment gets to pull the strings.
Now, all that inner chaos leads to something the text calls the law of recurrence. Because these I's apparently carry over from past lives, they force us to repeat the exact same dramas, the same mistakes, the same tragedies in every single life. It's like we're stuck in a cosmic rerun. We think we're making new choices, but we're just reenacting the same old, tired script. And to really drive this point home, the author uses this incredible metaphor. We all live in a psychological country. Outwardly, we might seem respectable, good citizens. But inside, our secret I's are hanging out in these back alley dens of thieves and brothels. This hidden inner world is what's really running the show.
Okay, so if we're all stuck in this internal prison, controlled by a mob of egos, and doomed to repeat our failures, how in the world do we get out? Well, this brings us to the very heart of the book, its central call to action, the Great Rebellion. And this isn't a rebellion against society, it's an inner revolution against yourself.
And this isn't just a vague idea. The text lays out a very specific three-step battle plan. First is ruthless self-observation. You have to become a spy in your own mind, catching these I's in the act. Second is comprehension, which is done through deep meditation. You're not judging these parts of yourself, you're trying to understand why they exist. And the final, most radical step is elimination. This is where you supposedly invoke a divine power to completely disintegrate that I, freeing the bit of consciousness it held captive.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, I can do this with enough willpower. But the book is very clear, you can't. Not on your own. You're going to need some heavy-duty backup to win this rebellion. And that brings us to what the text calls the secret weapons.
And this part is absolutely crucial. Just understanding your flaws isn't enough to get rid of them. The mind can analyze itself all day long, but it can't destroy a part of itself. That's like trying to bite your own teeth. You need a power that is superior to the mind to do the actual work of elimination.
So what are these higher powers? The book identifies two of them specifically. First, there's the Divine Mother Kundalini, which is described as this ancient, fiery, feminine power that has the ability to just annihilate the ego.
And second, there's the intimate Christ, which is seen as an inner savior that directs the whole painful process of purification from the inside.
Okay, and this next part is a super important distinction. The text talks about two opposing serpent forces. You've got the Kundalini, that's the good one. It's the ascending serpent of fire and light that leads to liberation. But then you have its evil twin, the Kunda buffer. This is the descending, tempting serpent from Eden, and its power is what keeps humanity trapped in a hypnotic state. It's the very source of our ego and suffering.
So, what about the intimate Christ? Well, the book really stresses that we are not talking about the historical Jesus of Nazareth here. This is an inner, cosmic principle. It's a saving force that has to be born inside a person to do the hardest work of all, getting rid of the deepest root causes of our suffering. So after all this, the crisis, the prison, the rebellion, the secret weapons, what's the endgame? What's the ultimate point of this whole difficult process? It leads to a complete and total transformation of our being, into what the text calls the Superman.
The journey starts right where we are now. Stage 1, the intellectual animal. The book says this is our current state. We're basically just machines, humanoid robots that are programmed and controlled by that chaotic mob of eyes running around inside us.
But if you go through with the rebellion and start eliminating the ego, you can reach stage 2, the authentic man. The idea here is that every human has these things called solar germs inside them, kind of like spiritual seeds. Once you clear out all the ego weeds, these seeds can finally grow and you become a truly unified, conscious individual for the very first time.
And that leads to the final destination, stage 3, the Superman. This is what happens when that authentic man fully integrates with the divine. They become a being of completely awakened consciousness who, and get this, operates beyond our simple human concepts of good and evil.
And to capture this radical idea, the author uses some pretty epic, mythic language. The Superman isn't just a better person. They're described as a force of nature, like lightning, whose word is like thunder that shatters our entire ordinary worldview.
So, when you boil it all down, the Great Rebellion isn't a self-help guide. It's a declaration of total war against our own mechanical nature. It's a profound, demanding, and pretty wild vision that leaves us all with one massive, fundamental question. What does it truly mean to know ourselves?